War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice.
Thank you for tuning in to War Room, Gwinnett County. I'm your host, Antonio Jones. We back with another exciting episode, and we have a number of things to go through today. If you're tuned into this, make sure you share this podcast. That's the biggest thing that we can do right now. A lot going on with election integrity, especially right here in the state of Georgia. We have a number of guests today that have put in a lot of work to try to get things ready for 24. But we got a lot of situations to where they've been blocked, and we just got to keep working on this right now. The establishment in Georgia, let's go through a couple of things that we're going to talk about. The establishment, who that consists of, in our opinion, what their goal is, and what we should be doing. You know, Saturday before last, President Trump was here, and he rightfully went after the leadership in Georgia, specifically Brian Kemp, because for almost 4 years now, very little has been done to secure the elections. The reason why we know that this is true, just go online. You know, look on X, look at many other platforms and what the podcasters are sharing, and listen at the concerns of the citizens. There was a video that came out, and it showed where a particular gentleman was going around to, I guess, an apartment complex, asking people of Hispanic descent whether they were registered to vote, if they had voted, and were they here legally or illegally. Another video that we saw some time ago was what we call here in the War Room the secret room at the airport, where Senator Colton Moore received a tip, and he decided to go to Hartsfield-Jackson and see what was going on. Well, they had an area, I think it looked like a construction area or something like that, but the video's out there. And he was able to make it to the room, and they didn't want him to come in, didn't want him to film. I almost got into a tussle, I guess, with the guy. They had security and everything. So my question is this to the audience. Why does it seem like there's no real appetite to get down to the bottom of securing our elections and the illegals that are here? The last time we checked, there was over almost, I don't know, maybe 350,000 illegal aliens here in Georgia. When Brian Kemp, during some of his promotionals, was riding around saying that, you know, he was going to have a big truck and round everybody up and all that. What happened to that? You know why this is not happening? Because it's our theory that the builders run the state of Georgia and the lobbyists. They're not interested in hearing what the people have to say. We have judges that are not allowing information and evidence as far as election integrity in. Why? What's the answer to that question? It's because when you are able to have your First Amendment right, which is the right, this is your voice. Who's going to represent you? This is how the people, representative government, decide who they want to lead them. And this is why all across the country, ever since 2020, this is the railhead of the battle that we're fighting right now. It's because if you can get the person elected that you want to represent you, that's going to do what you tell them to do, because that's what they're supposed to do, then guess who has the power? The people. And this is why they came so hard after President Trump, because during one of his key speeches, that's what he said. We're going to return power to who? The people. And this is what this whole battle is about. It's us, we the people, against the establishment elite club right here in Georgia. And when President Trump took that stage last week, he forced everybody to make a decision. We need to know who is going to be on our team to fight for. This is not about President Trump, okay? Who's going to fight for the future of this country and for the future of our children? And I've had many side conversations, many of them. And I encourage people to remember that this conversation that's happening right now, I had already been planning on to say all of this stuff. This is not a continuation of the private conversation, because people, quite frankly, had a difference of opinion on whether Trump should have took the stage and said what he said about Brian Kemp. I completely agree with him, because you have to understand the job of a coach. You guys are thinking like players right now. We need to know who is on our team. We are in the final stretch leading up to the most important election in history right now. And each and every one of us have to make a decision. You're either going to choose your children, their future, and to do what's right, and to know who is on your team, and let's expel and expose and unmask those who are not. We got to do it. We got to do it now. All this election about the future and all of that, this is how you get your country and your opportunity and your kids' future sold down the river with that attitude. All to be accepted. Politicians, listen, we're not electing them to go there and be friends, and it's great when you can get along, but they're there to do a job, and that's to represent you, me, and the rest of our state, and to follow the Constitution. That's what we need, people to do their job in that manner. So back to the decision. Each and every one of us is going. President Trump forced the decision. So I'm challenging everybody that's watching this right now. You're going to have to make a decision too, because you've made a lot of friends in the party. You got to remember, you're not there to be friends. You're there to tell the truth, and press for what's right for your kids and their future. And how somebody feels about what the truth is, ain't nothing you can do about that. Just accept it. Ain't nothing you can do about it. So today, we're going to try to get through some of this information that we have. We got people that we're waiting on to get in on the Zoom so we can make sure we get all of our guests on. Hey, I'm not the expert. You know, I'm pretty new to politics, but I got a pretty good 30,000-foot view and an ability that I believe that, many of us may have discernment. And the more we get into our word and follow Christ, the better we become at it. And we usually can make better assessments and decisions. But we're dealing with a godless government right now. And I want everybody to know that. Completely godless. They're only interested in satisfying the lobbyists in their own personal interest. Just look at it. Take a look at what's happening right here in our state. The guy that Kemp, and not to pick on Kemp, it is what it is. When you're the coach, when you're the head, you take all the heat. And if you ain't made for it, then hey, you shouldn't have took the job. We have to make sure that we don't get caught up in the minutia and worrying about who likes and or accepts us. Now, we should be respectful to one another. I'm with that. I agree with that. But the truth is what it is. And the truth is that this leadership in this state has not done everything it can do to secure our elections. Look at what Glenn Youngkin just did. Look at what he did. That's what leadership looks like. It doesn't look like, I'm not going to answer too many questions, or maybe I'll show up and get on Eric Erickson's show and take these softball questions, and look like we on a World Economic Forum stage or something, so we all can look good in front of a bunch of people out in the audience. The country is on fire right now, and people need to know that. You need to think about that when you're making your decision on who you going to side with. You going to side with a guy who literally has taken a bullet, put everything on the line for this country, who doesn't have to do this? Or some guy is more concerned about the way he feels about something somebody said about him? How are you going to explain that to your kids? That's my question to you. We need to grow up. And you know, if you ain't got the gall and the guts to do it, just step aside. Let somebody do it who's willing to put everything on the line. Short break, and we'll be back with our guest.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to safewayhost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to safewayhost.store today. That's safewayhost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.
Thank you guys for sticking around. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Please share this podcast. The most important amendment that we have is the First Amendment. That's our voice. This is what separates us from all the other living things on the planet. It's the ability to communicate. And if you think about how God orchestrated our body, you know, He's gave us a brain, He gave us a heart, He gave us all of these incredible things. Absolutely incredible. They do not function properly if the signal doesn't happen from the brain to these different parts of our body. So we have to remember that getting the truth out here is like that signal floating around. And the people that want to destroy this nation, that want to destroy the world, they understand that. And that's why they've taken over the news media, and they want to silence people, you know. And we have to stay on that, on top of it. When Barron was in here with me last week, shout out to Barron, he said we have the voter box, and the last result is the ammo box. You know, we don't want to have to get to the Second Amendment and use it because the First Amendment have been snuffed out. You know, we really don't want to have to do that. So I encourage everybody today. You know, this is not just let's have a beat down, you know, on the governor, but hey, it is what it is. You know, you the coach. So people are expecting him to do what's right. And do not relent, everybody who's putting in this great work. There are many people out here that have made a lot of sacrifices, driving all over the state, showing up to different stuff. You know, quite frankly, putting themselves and their careers and their families at risk to fight for this nation. And all people have to do, all y'all got to say is, you know, I don't think you should say this, or this is not the time. When is the time to fight for your country? When you've got traitors in your own party and they've presented themselves as such. People are not backing off because people are not comfortable going into 2024. And that's just the basic bottom line of this. And we need people to step up right now. And if you don't got the stones to do it, just step aside, get out the way, and let the people who were called to do this do their job. So we're going to get our first guest in here, and she broke some important information on the X platform. And let me see if I can get her up. She broke some important information on the X platform, and it had to do with the governor-appointed state election board chairman. And I don't think that they want to have any more meetings in person. Is that what's going on, Kandiss?
Well, that's what they said that it was a threat to security of some kind. I don't know how it could be. I've been at numerous state election board meetings. I think Kim Brooks is on here. She's been to more than I have. And I've never seen a threatening situation. In fact, the left and the right are there and people in the middle are there and everybody is allowed to speak and everybody's been very polite and kind. And I don't understand except that they don't want to hold us to hold their feet to the fire. They want to do what they want to do, and they don't want to hear truth. And when you're out there spitting out data and facts and truth, and you got 3 members that are on board with elections to being secure, and he is a Kemp appointed person, but he's aligning himself with the one Democrat who is against everything that we say and opposes everything, it's concerning. It's very concerning that he is the chairman and he is appointed by a Republican governor in this state who says we've had the securest elections ever and still holds fast that 2020 was secure and 2022. We can go there too. They're not. Even the spring election that we just had in May, primary of 2024, in my county alone, we found almost 3,000, right at 3,000 irregular votes. So these machines are not secure. We do not have secure elections in the state, and he needs to do a better job with his chairman appoint. In fact, I want to see Furrier resign. If he doesn't want to have in-person meetings, he needs to resign because he can't do his job.
So Kandiss, you were a part of, I think you've been signed on to the paper please movement, hand mark, hand counted, day of, ballots. Governor Glenn Youngkin has signed an executive order to make sure that this happens in Virginia. We saw all the cybersecurity problems, not just with the claims that we have about what's happened in the elections right now and in the past, but all over the place. You get a phone call or you get something in the mail that says, we've had a cyber attack. Why does it seem like the leadership in our state, that's all leadership, I'll say, in the GOP, doesn't really seem to, you guys dropped off some thousands of affidavits
40,000.
40,000 affidavits in 2020 after that election. Does it seem that our leadership have an appetite to really get down to the bottom and investigate what many claims have been?
So I think, it's a talking point that the Democrats wanted paper ballots, and then we don't want paper ballots. Well, we don't want what they want. We don't want any cheating, right? We want fair, secure votes. And if the Democrats win, good. I don't care. I want 1 + 1 = 2. Fair, legal elections. I don't care about. Our constitutional republic works in fair, legal voting is secure elections. And so that's the talking head point that's given, and all the GOP people and the Republican legislators, they regurgitate that. Well, the Democrats want paper ballots. Well, it ain't about that. It is about secure elections. And so anytime you get a computer system involved, you're going to have cheating. You cannot out-cheat a machine that you can literally duck with a number and plug in. You'd have to have boxes and boxes and boxes of fake paper that should be watermarked, that should have a serial number, that should be countable. You would have to have boxes. You can see that fraud. We know. We saw suitcases pulled out in the State Farm Arena. We know how easy it is to see paper fraud. But whenever you have a voting system, everything can be hidden, everything. So I feel like we need paper ballot. And then if they want to run it through a scanner for reconciliation purposes to show that it adds up quickly, the same number, I'm good with that. But we need to hand mark paper. Right now, our system, we touch screen our vote. We cannot see voter intent. So the machines themselves are unconstitutional in Georgia. It says that you can see voter intent. Well, you're not hand marking ballots. This is an ADA machine. This is used for disabilities, but we're using it for everybody. We're the only state that does that. So we're touch screening a vote. We're printing it out. We don't actually mark our ballots ourselves. It's touch screen. And then you have a QR code that you can't read, that you can easily switch A to B to B to A and flip an election like that. And they think we're done. And then outside of that, it's the voter roll issues that I'm sure Kim's going to talk about. That is a whole nother issue that can rig an election just by itself.
So it's the answer to all the vulnerabilities we see as hand-marked paper ballots?
At this point, with everything we know, and we know more than the election supervisors know, and I'm not being arrogant saying that, I'm telling you the truth, and Kim will back me up on that. We as a grassroots team know more than they know. We can tell them, no, that's against Georgia code. No, that's wrong. No, this shows this. Where we are right now, there is no other pathway for a fair, secure voting system in November But to go to hand mark emergency paper counted at the precinct level and to reconcile it with the scanners. They can scan it too, but they have to reconcile with the paper count. That is the only way, and that is still not dealing with our voter roll issue, which could hijack the whole election by itself.
Got it. So what should people do? Phone calls, or what is your recommendation? So because we don't have much runway left, so I want to have you on, and we're going to continue these conversations leading all the way up to and through the election. And what should people do right now?
Well, I'm actually working on a movement with every county. I have a volunteer in every single county, and we're putting applied pressure on our local board of elections to make sure that they're secure in every way possible, and make sure the LNA testing goes correctly, and make sure that they are counting the paper, and make sure that they're not doing anything. We're printing, tabulating counts early and breaking Georgia code because it's illegal, and we're doing a lot of that. And then we're going to follow up with things right after the election to make sure that we have the count correct. And so I'm working on a whole movement. You're welcome to join me. Email me, private message me, and I will get you on board with that. And then I know Kim has a ton of things with the voter rolls, which is, like I said, a whole nother issue that we're very, very concerned about, and we need remedy very quickly there. But we have to apply pressure. And right now, I would tell you to demand that Farrier resign, because if he cannot meet in person, if he cannot do his job as the chairman of the election board, when we're right here and at the very end of the road to get done, we have to get done. If he can't do that, he needs to resign. And Governor Kemp needs to appoint somebody out there that can do it.
Absolutely. So one final question. So should we be worried about, how somebody's going to feel, and, this whole, club mentality that's rife in our own party, or should we be focusing on trying to have victory? And if somebody's not doing their job, should we be unmasking them right now and calling them out?
Absolutely. And people that are saying that President Trump shouldn't have gone right against Kemp okay, Jesus Christ told the truth, and he didn't care if it hurt your feelings. People need to grow up, get out of their diaper, and understand that we're going to lose our country, period. Like, we've already regressed our country so much, our money means nothing. So we're going to lose our whole country if we don't have fair legal votes in November. And I don't care if it hurts your feelings. And we got to get past that. We got to quit worrying about that. We're going to call every single body out. We're going to expose all your connections. We're going to expose all your dirty money deals. We're going to continue to do that every single day until you decide to do your job, which is a public servant, and what the people want. We want emergency paper ballots right now.
All right. Tell the people how to follow you, Kandiss, and thank you for stopping by War Room today.
Yeah, thank you, Antonio. Kandiss Taylor. I'm on all media, Kandiss Taylor. I'd love to connect with you. We are at war. This is what a digital war looks like, and we're here, and we're going to win.
That sounds great. I appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one, Kandiss.
Thanks.
All right, guys. So Kandiss Taylor weighing in. She broke the news about the chairperson that was appointed by the governor not wanting to have in-person state election board meetings, I guess, till maybe up until after the election. I don't believe that that's a coincidence, like, at all. And we need everybody to stay involved. Please share this live. We'll be back right after this.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to SafewayHost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to SafewayHost.store today. That's SafewayHost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for staying tuned. We're going to be covering all things elections right now, because this is the real head of where the fight is. I mean, look at how hard they've come after people that have tried to get involved and make sure that we have safe and secure elections. We had U.S. Attorney Jeff Clark on last week, and the FBI, came, pulled him out of his house in his underclothes and, I guess in the crack of the dawn or whatever. And this is just what's going on. We're going to have more of this if we don't take the power back. And we have a duty to try and do just that. So I have a special in-studio guest today, and she's been dialed in. So I just want to get her in here, and that's Kim Brooks of the Georgia Nerds. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us today.
Thank you for having me, Antonio.
And thank you for the great work that you're doing. So let me ask you, Kim, before we get to our next guest. So Kim is going to be co-hosting with me for the entire show today, and we got some exciting people coming up that's working on some rules and everything down at the state election board. Does it seem like there's just not a real appetite from, I would say, our leadership here in Georgia? That means like the governor on down, to secure our elections or investigate for real what happened in 2020 and look at all of the evidence and the claims people have. And, and if we're just a bunch of quacks or whatever who's wasting our time, that's, wandering around in the backyard thinking about how we can get famous, making false claims, have they not shown, given an opportunity to justify, maybe that claim of people are, election deniers and all of that?
So first off, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and it's been a 3.5-year journey that started in Gwinnett, so I'm glad to be in the war room of Gwinnett today. I plan on beating up Gwinnett because that's where it started for me. So starting in Gwinnett, they were given 2 years ago today evidence of the 2020 election that was thrown in Gwinnett, as well as malfeasance on their voter rolls, and they did nothing. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But as we progress, the Georgia Nerds was created, and we've been looking at criminal fraud. We were in the United States Supreme Court with evidence. We filed on May 31st, and so Chris Carr was Secretary of State's attorney, and so he has roughly 206 pages of torpedo damning evidence. 120 pages of it is nerd data. So he has evidence of the criminal fraud, and of course Raffensperger's done nothing, as well as Chris Carr. And then last week we had a press release, and we called on Governor Kemp to do the right thing, because you've got a guest that's going to tell you all about what Kemp has known for years. I won't steal his thunder. But Governor Kemp was also served last week in his office that 206 pages of torpedo damning evidence. Furthermore, Josh McCoon is not wanting to have a conversation with me, and people are trying to bridge that, and he doesn't seem to want to talk to me. Senator Gooch has some very damning evidence since January of this year, and he's done nothing. Senator Harbin, I've put him on alert that there's a lot of information. He says he's for election integrity, but he doesn't seem to return the phone calls. So I do not believe from the floor to the top that our Republican leadership in Georgia has any appetite whatsoever to fix our elections.
So I had this big, long, I guess people may call it a rant in the beginning, and I referred to what I define as the club and many others. Is this a display of potential club members that I speak of? Because here's the thing. Keep going back to it. What President Trump did Saturday before last is he forced everybody to make a decision. You're going to choose the club, or you're going to choose to side with we the people who want to have free and fair elections, who want to abide by the Constitution, and, who are concerned about the future for our children. So when we hear names like that, from you serve the governor, I think we saw that video. There's other information out there that I guess Senator Gooch and some of the other ones have, and Josh McCoon. Come on, Josh. Come on. I mean, we've not really because it's not our goal here in the War Room to come after people. But I think what happens is people make themselves a target when they're not being outspoken on things that have been presented to them, like the stuff that you're talking about right now. Is it true, Josh, that you don't want to have a conversation to look at the evidence? Could it be that you may see something that you may need to act on? So here's an opportunity. So if there's anybody watching this show or some of the legislators and all of the rest of them, have Josh to reach out to us. And, we can be a part of the conversation in a meeting between you, Josh, and Kim Brooks. Because essentially, the people just want to know that we have free and fair elections. We need this 2024 election secured. That is what people want. This is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. It's an American issue, and we all have a duty to hold our legislators and people that have chosen. You chose to be in leadership. It's not just you, Josh. Everybody else that takes a part in leadership. You make that decision, and the people put you there. So we need you to come to the podium, come to the sticks with the rest of them, and answer these questions about why you allegedly don't have any interest in having a conversation with Ms. Kim.
Yeah, we even called on Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. I like Burt Jones, but, he's behind the podium at the Trump rally talking about we must fight for 2024. Well, the senators need to get together and fight for 2024. You can't just have words. We're no longer conspiracy theorists. The nerds say we're going to show you the fraud. You don't have to be a data analyst. We're showing you screenshots from the Secretary of State files, and it's bad. And they don't like the exposure. Somebody told me last night, I don't think there's a senator at the Dome that likes you, Kim. Well, at least I've accomplished one goal in life.
Yeah. So what happens is, what we've seen happen is, look, there's going to be an unmasking in Georgia, okay? Everybody is going to have to choose a side. You're going to choose the side for your children, for the future of this nation, and what's right for the state of Georgia, or you're going to choose the establishment. And that's what Trump did a week and a half ago. And we all got to make that decision. So what happens, Kim, is when people like Senator Colton Moore, who has an A record on his voting, by the way, down at the Georgia legislature, him and Charlize Byrd, I believe, when they call on, just like he called on the governor to investigate Fani Willis. And I personally asked Chris Carr down at Faith and Freedom, what were they going to be doing about it? And everything was fine until I asked him that question. Everything was hunky-dory. Oh, we don't see enough evidence, when the evidence was overwhelming. But when people like Colton Moore stand up, they go to their little caucus meetings or whatever and try to vote the guy out of the caucus and all that. This is the kind of nonsense in the establishment uniparty showing itself. You got like one guy, and there may be a few others, but if you are, and you're America first, you want everything to be done right for Georgia, you need to come on out of the closet. Jeff Duncan and the rest of these folks, they ain't got a problem with doing it. Where are our guys at right now? Where are we at? But we got people worried about, don't say that right now, because, the governor's not going to put his machine behind Trump because Trump said something to hurt his feelings. No, the guy called you out, Kemp, for not doing your job in securing this election and leading this state like you should be doing. Take a look at the governor of Virginia if you don't have an idea of what the people want and what they need to secure this election in 2024. Kim.
What's really funny about the Chris Carr saying he didn't have any evidence? Okay, so he was served the Supreme Court evidence. All right, so, and he even pretended in that little monologue he had that he didn't even know what court we were in, but he was served. I mean, he was part of the case at the United States Supreme Court. So whoever heard him saying that at that conference, they were lied to by our Attorney General.
Not surprised. All right, guys, we're going to take a short break real quick, and when we get back, we're going to have our next guest on. Back in a moment.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to safewayhost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to safewayhost.store today. That's safewayhost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.
All right. Thank you guys for staying tuned. Me and Kim we trying to hammer away, and we much rather be doing something else. Talking about what we're gonna do next weekend, and it's the kind of like the coming towards the end of the summer. This is around the time where people spend a little more time outside, but we got to be sitting in here talking about what our leadership is not doing in this state. We need Josh McCoon to come forward and have a conversation with Kim. What's the big deal? Let's talk about it. Let's look at what she has, or let's put to bed the overreaction that it seems like people, are claiming that, people that are concerned about the election have. Kim, what you say to that?
Well, I agree. If you want to facilitate a meeting between me and the head of the Georgia GOP,
and you know what? Let's just stream it. Let's just do it live. Let's not have all these private behind closed doors meeting. How about that?
Let's get down. I'm ready. Debate us.
Let's do it. I think that sounds great. So let me get some stuff changed up real quick. So just
that's hilarious, Antonio.
I'm running a one-man. Well, I want to say one-man operation. That's not the best way to say it. So I may have to reposition the screens for
your next
Jason.
challenge is me and Gabe Sterling.
Oh. So our guest, we may need the guest to get center screen because we've got it set. Yeah, come in there a little bit tighter if you can. Yeah. So we'll have two half faces or whatever. So, but that's fine. All right. So let me get the names and stuff switched up, guys. Just bear with me a few minutes. All right. So the next guest is Jason Frazier, and he's been dialed in at the state election board, spending some time down there, and I believe he has some rules. So I want to open this up with a question, Jason. Do the people of Georgia and just the people across the country who have concerns about whether or not the elections in Georgia are secure for 2024, do they have a legitimate right to be concerned right now, Reason? Your view?
There is definitely cause to be concerned. I mean, we've had problems for years, and just like Kim has said, just like Candiss has said, the voter rolls are a mess. Things have not really changed. The election system is still the same Dominion voting machines. We don't have hand-marked paper ballots. We've got pretty much election month, and this year is pretty much election year, but between all the different elections, and they're just not doing a good job cleaning things up. So yes, we got some problems in Georgia.
All right, so you've been attending quite a few state election boards and everything like that, and have been working on some rules. I know that I believe Sally Grubbs had a rule that I guess she presented that was accepted. I don't know if did it officially pass. You guys are familiar with that, to where they have to I guess not synchronize, but they have to match the number of people who checked in on the poll pads to the number of ballots actually cast, which is the number on top of the machine, and to the actual physical ballots. But you guys worked on a few rules or whatever. Can you go through those so that the audience have an idea on your rules and why you believe that getting these passed will be important in securing our elections?
Sure, Antonio. I'm Lucia Frazier, and Jason and I did work together on 3 rules. The first one was just to get the voter roll free. Other states do this. It should be free according to our Constitution and just our laws in general for open governance. And it costs like $485 right now, so that's way too high. So we're working on that. That'll be talked about at this meeting on Monday. And then our next two rules are kind of related. So before an election happens, all the precincts, all the counties prepare an elector list, a certified elector list, and that's who can vote. So that we're asking to be readily, freely available to the public. And then after an election, every county provides who actually did vote. So that's called the numbered list of voters. So those two items are the next two rules that we're just asking to be made available and free to the public. And I will say that Cobb County does provide the numbered list of voters already. So they're actually doing a great job. So hopefully these rules can help make things more consistent throughout the state.
So in your humble opinion, has any leadership reached out to you and tried to, see what your overall concerns are just as citizens after seeing you at the meetings and everything to present? Is there an appetite, is what I'm saying, just overall, just in your view, to secure the elections with the interactions that you've had so far? Outside of the advocates like Kim and some of the other, people that have done great work.
I mean, there are a few. As you know, we have 3 strong board members now on the SEB. But as far as some of the other leadership at the Capitol, there are very few that really seem to either understand or really want to make these things happen. So I certainly agree with Kim that we have an uphill battle trying to get people to really care about this issue and make some change.
So can I ask Jason a question?
Yep.
Or it's actually not a question. Kudos to y'all for all 3 rules. Voter rolls are getting rather unaffordable on purpose. But I wanted to address evidence behind why their second and third rule is critical to our election infrastructure based on what we have uncovered. So since 2020 through 2022 and the recent primaries, they are packing the voter rolls. So we have laws of the last state you can register to vote. And so that should be rule number 2 that they're proposing is the amount of people that are lawfully registered to vote by that date it's like, what is it, Jason, 31 days before the election?
I think they have to seal it, 29 days.
29 days. So in 2020, it was October 5th. 2020 was the last date you could register to vote. But this is what we uncovered then, and we keep uncovering it in every single election. They're packing the voter roll and voting people after that registration date. So the sad part is the election officials cannot see what we see with our nerd data. So what does that look like to people? If October 5th was the last date you could register to vote, and then you start comparing voter rolls, you'll find voters that voted that were not on the voter roll in October 5th, and they have a backdated registration date. So if their rule number 2 passes, which it should pass, then we have a stake in the ground of all the people they said were registered to vote by October 5th. So it will cut down on the cheat of the backdating of registration dates and votes. So that is a huge rule that needs to go through. Their third rule, the numbered report, is also huge. So that shows exactly when you checked into the poll pad and voted. And we have caught massive fraud around the poll pad check-in files. And some, like Union County, they cheated a sheriff out of this last primary, and they're still not even fulfilling their ORR. So they're being criminals up there in Union in more ways than one, but probably because we know how to turn that numbered report on its head and find things. What do we find? So we find things like someone checked in on the poll pad on election day and voted, so you know they were there, okay? but then their vote is deleted and inserted with a fake absentee ballot. So that numbered report is key. Another one is, if you know they were there and they checked in, then why all of a sudden were they there on election day, but now they're in the absentee file with shenanigans going on? So we catch a lot of fraud with those numbered reports. So it is a great rule proposal, rule number 3, to get numbered reports automatically from all 159 counties. It will cut down on the cheat, and it will help us find the cheat. So way to go, guys.
Yeah. So let me see. Let me get this screen. So Josh McCoon, that sounds pretty compelling. And I'm not picking on Josh. What the people want, what we want is you guys to come forward and do the right thing. You know, we don't want to have a grudge match and do all of this stuff, but we will if we have to, you know, because we have a duty to fight for this nation. And you guys have a duty to do what we ask you to do in your leadership, because we're supposed to have a representative government. That means to represent the will of what the people want to do, and not to be up underneath some type of leadership that feels like they know better than what the people are asking them to do. So, Jason, how can people follow you? And well, first, what should people do to at this point right now? And is hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots, is that the best way to have a more secure election in your view?
Oh, absolutely. If we could pull that off, that would be a massive win. But also, like Kim was saying, these 3 rules are incredibly important. We shouldn't be paying for voter rolls. We need to know who is allowed to vote, and then we need to know who voted. So that numbered list of voters that Kim was referring to, that's our Rule 3. In Cobb County, they post it right on their website. Fulton County, we can't get it. They won't give it to us. And as far as the certified list, we still don't have a certified list for 2020. So we don't know who was actually allowed to vote in 2020. So that's been a problem for years. And we just decided, you know what? We finally have 3 good people on the state elections board. Now's the time. So Lucia and I worked our tail off and got those rules in as quickly as we could.
So should these, because we heard that the chair, the Kemp appointed chair, doesn't want to have any more in-person meetings. What are your thoughts on that? Should we be having our meetings in person, or should we be setting up on some Zoom call, or should we let the people's voice be heard to come down to the Capitol and put their information out there and put it in front of the whole public in the room of their peers?
Absolutely, they should be in person. And in fact, these last few meetings have been just fine. And even the energy in the room has been, positive, and even people on both sides of the issue acted appropriately. So it's very nice to have a room full of people and all be together. And we've been working really hard to tell people to get involved. Just showing up to a county meeting or a state meeting is really the first way to start getting involved. Once you see what's going on, you can't help yourself to actually join and help to make things right. And so because of that, we have so many people now in these meetings that there used to be nobody. So they just need to find a bigger room.
All right. So last time it was like two, 3 overflow rooms. That's pretty incredible. We need to just grow it and have people just waiting outside and everything. So if we can, and shout out to those 3 great state election board members that we have. Thank you guys for standing up for what is right. We pray that you continue to do that. So tell the people how to follow you guys, Jason.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jason Frazier USA. I've been trying to post as many things as I can to really bring the light to some of these issues we're having in Georgia. And I mean, people are really waking up. So you can follow me, follow Kim, follow Candiss. We all have great people to learn from. We learn from others, and it just really builds the network out. So great job, everyone.
All right. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
So Kim, quite interesting conversation, with them, and we'll appreciate the work that they're doing too as well. We're putting up these rules and making sacrifices, showing up, letting their voice be heard and everything like that. It just sounds like to me that this move to not have in person happening is a way to chill the speech of the people. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I think the state election board is there to serve we the people. And some are getting standing ovations and some are getting not as receptive responses. And I like Jason, I'm going to steal what Jason said. He says, Vervier's like a bunch of soggy waffles. And I thought that was hilarious when he said it. So we need people with guts to be able to stand up in front of the people because we're unhappy. We're not like, we're just unhappy and we're redressing our government for our First Amendment right. And we're bringing evidence to them that they don't want to hear. And when they don't do the right thing, they hear about that too. So we're engaged, and they don't like us engaged. And so, no, a Zoom call is a cowardly way to go.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more on that. It's a way to chill speech and discourage people. But hey, the fight's on. So I encourage, and we are encouraging people to continue to show up and put the pressure on. They have an agenda, but guess what? We had one too. And I think our calling is a higher calling than what they have. So that's why I have so much respect for people like yourself and many others that are doing the work. Hey, we ain't the experts here in War Room. I'm learning too. And I'm excited because what a time to be alive to fight for your country. It's our turn.
Well, there are several of us that believe we were created for a time such as this, and God knew it was hard before we started. And if you'd have told me 5 years ago what I'd be doing today, I'd be laughing at you. So, yeah.
Well, you know what? That's you and me both. I mean, I never imagined I'd be, people that knew me from back in the day or whatever. I would have never been. Let's see. I think Roy's mic is. Okay, there we go. There we got it. So I never imagined I'd be doing what I'm doing now, but this is exciting though. I think people should be. I mean, I'm juiced up every single day. I really, really am. This is a great thing. We're getting the echo. Yeah. So just hang tight, Roy. We got another guest that's gonna be coming up, but what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Hey, Josh, Kim, help me name some names here. It's just general leadership names. And this doesn't mean it's in its entirety, but these just a few of the, top brass. Chris Carr, Gabe Sterling, Raffensperger. Yeah, hey, do the right thing, guys. The people are not going away. So if you're banking on that and waiting on the people to be, that crowd, elections about the future. Elections about the future. Let's just worry about, in this club thing. It's not going away. There's an unmasking, and what Trump did a week and a half ago is he forced people to make a decision. We made our decision. We just were wondering, what decision have you guys made? We're going to take a short break, and we're going to have our another guest on.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to SafewayHost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to SafewayHost.store today. That's SafewayHost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County. The people's voice.
Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. That's the biggest thing that you can do for us. If you want to make a contribution, you can do that too as well. We appreciate the people that have done so to help us, podcasters, people that are doing work, like Kim and, many others. Jason was just on here, many others. they don't ask for contributions or any like, but contribute to these great individuals if you can, whatever you can. Tell them great job, because the power structure is going to have to come after us at some point. But you know what we say? We say bring it. Our Father has a cattle on 1,000 hills, so we're not really worried about. We know how this story ends. This thing here is about the dash. Shout out to my pastor, Pastor Mark Davis. We all have an appointed time to be born and an appointed time to die. There's nothing you can do to speed that up or slow that down. When we stand before the Creator, and this is what I want these politicians to hear. When we stand, all of us, every knee is going to bend when Christ returns. Every single one of them. You're going to be judged on that dash in the middle of your appointed time to be born and appointed time to die. So we know how this story ends. Kim, let me see if I can. Something's going on with my screens here. I might have a Walt Disney here, which I hope we don't. Oh, there it came back. Thank goodness. So Kim, given all of that, this is what gets me so excited, because I know the burden that has been given to me, and God's obviously given you a burden to do what you do. Your husband, when you guys first got here, we talked as you went up the stairs, and was talking with my wife, and my wife, she kind of worries about me sometimes, but I have to remind her that about that appointment that we have, about we are living the dash, as my pastor says. We are living the dash. That's that little line in between our appointed time to be born and appointed time to die. So we know how this story ends. So if we're going to go off the cliff and, into the abyss or whatever, then what we need to make sure is that we have our hands around the throat of evil. That's my goal, and I hope that people will join in that with us in doing the same thing. What'd you say?
Well, I guess I work 7 days a week for free for God and country. And I don't work for President Trump, but I voted for him and know he won. But why do I work so hard? It's like harder than any corporate job I've ever had, and I had a lot of corporate jobs. It's because it's the right thing to do, and I can't even explain it. And I can't explain why I have the drive and tenacity to dig into this fraud. I like jigsaw puzzles when I was a young girl with my brother, and this is just a big old puzzle, and I think that is kind of the fun part for me. But yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's so exciting. So now, without any further ado, one of my partners in crime for the right reasons and for good things, I got to bring him in here, and that's Roy Hambrook from Small Town Underground. I'll tell you, I guess me and Roy officially met for the first time. I believe it was at a fundraiser that was going on. But tell you the type of guy he is. This guy went way from Dawsonville all the way over to Douglasville just to try to help with a fundraiser to get a candidate elected, because he felt like this was the best candidate for the county. Not Douglas County, but he put in his time. He's using his voice and everything like that. So, Roy, welcome to the War Room, man. I know we've been trying to put this together. And just for a note, Roy and I have been having a few conversations offline. I brought him on here today to touch on it, and so he can give his thoughts and observations and insights on how he feel about what we call the club or whatever in Georgia. So we just want to give you guys a splash of that today, and then we'll get together to do the long form of that, because the club is definitely a problem in the party and in Georgia. Roy, you got the floor. You got to unmute yourself. There you go. I don't think I can do it.
Okay. How's that sound? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sounds great. And we
Thank
got
you.
Kim in the building
I
too,
know,
so she
I'm
might
so
jump.
excited.
Might
I've
jump
met her
in.
once. Been wanting to get her on my show. This is even better. Kim, it's an honor to be with you today. You guys are rocking the house. I would appreciate it. Antonio, I appreciate this opportunity. This is my first Zoom call interview like this, so a little nervous, making sure we're going through. A lot of,
So
go ahead.
go ahead, bro.
Well,
No, so
a lot of good information has been
yeah.
shared here today. I've actually compiled some content from all the SEB meetings, the Georgia for Truth press conference, a lot of people that were able to go down to Atlanta. And I'm going to actually release it tonight after my live stream with Tyler Martin because in case they try to kick me off, or give me another community strike. But I want to get that out there. And we see all of this stuff everywhere. And so I just tried to bring some of it together about an hour long, just put it in one video so we can share it because this stuff's got to get out. And we're fighting a lamestream media, just an establishment media presence that they don't want to cover any of this stuff. They want to pretend like it doesn't exist. And if I may say, I think this whole movement, they never counted on people like you and me and Kim, the Georgia nerds, all of these grassroots people that have come together, not even in a political way, because we are fighting for truth, transparency, and accountability. And, it doesn't take a genius, like Kim said earlier, to understand that there's issues with Dominion voting systems, our election process. Anybody can see it in 2020. You can see it in 2022. You can see it in the runoffs. And the thing is, the people aren't buying it. And I think that our state legislature, right, Georgia's ground zero, well, they just thought that eventually we would just kind of peter out and everybody would just go back to their bread and circus. They never thought that we would carry all of this stuff on our shoulders and free, by the way, right? Nobody's bought and paid for. Everybody is just doing this. And I don't think that they counted on that. And so now, to me, it just seems like a stall tactic. They're just stalling and doing everything they can to throw roadblocks up in the air till they get to the next election. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. So what you say about his thoughts and assessment there, Kim? What are your thoughts? They're just trying to kick it on down the road. Let's just
kicking the can.
You guys are really close now. They counting the days down because they don't want this for us to get the hand marked paper ballots. What's your assessment, Kim, on what Roy just so eloquently laid out for us?
He's spot on because they never thought we would compare 5 different kinds of files together at one time. Maybe they didn't think we were smart enough. And we have found criminal patterns in every single election we've looked at. And so when you say they didn't think we'd do it, they thought we'd just peter out presence-wise, but they never figured out we would find the fraud. And I'm not even a forensic auditor. We're just being crafty and combining the Secretary of State files and finding the criminal patterns everywhere.
That is 100% correct. And kudos to the Georgia nerds, all the work that they've done. Garland Favorito, we're going to have Garland on my show on the 20th in studio, and then he's doing a presentation. I mean, this is huge what's going on here. And Georgia being the ground zero state and knowing what we know now about establishment politics, this uniparty, this sort of the rhino presence of what we all, that we the people just have been on cruise control for so long. And another thing about the Democrat Party, I go back to that documentary Kill Chain, HBO documentary I watched years ago that they tried to hide, right before the 2020 election, where you had the Democrat Party actively engaged in election integrity, whether we agree with their angles or not. And then all of a sudden now that we've got people like the Georgia nerds that are not only providing the proof, the evidence out in front with these court cases, it's like they've just completely did a 180 and now they're siding with the establishment. I mean, this is something that needs to be fixed countrywide, every single state, local municipality, all across the board. We should never, ever have to be worrying or questioning what we've been questioning for the last few years. And it's been going on for a long time.
Absolutely, man. And like you said, they never expected us to have the will and the ingenuity in to put what we have together. And that's what we're supposed to do as Americans. I mean, we're supposed to rise to the occasion. And I'm just grateful, Roy, to be able to be a part of what the collective is doing. And I know that our conversation between each other, about the club, and we got to stop operating like a big high school, and to remember what the goal is.
Agreed.
And we're coaches. I consider myself as a coach. Yourself, Kim. Here's our job as a coach, is to get the best out of that player for that one play. Now, we can have an argument in the locker room about, what somebody said or did about lunch, but we're not bringing that on the field.
Absolutely.
This is the field of play. What Kim does when she goes down to that SEB meeting, when she's making her presentations and all of that, as long as a trader does not present himself out there on the field, and we got many of those, right, at that point, we have no option but to eject these people. What are your thoughts, Roy?
I agree wholeheartedly. And I want to say again, coming to something, I'm just a small town dude. All right. I literally found a podcast at a yard sale, and that's why I'm here right now. So when you talk about being led, and, I used to feel kind of that, what are we doing spending our weekdays on this kind of stuff? But, this is where God has put us. I'm a firm believer in that. We are all fighters for truth and justice, and the Lord is really working in my life and to make this happen. But the thing is, I come from the Northern District. I'm from the 14th District, and I have to remind people, because I meet so many people throughout the state and the South and, all over, things are different in every region of the state. And people might have issues with so-and-so here and there, and they don't understand sometimes about people, I think, like you and me, Antonio, that are just like, look, we're in this for the cause. All right. I'm not here to become popular. I'm not here to gain friends. I'm here because we're fighting for the same thing. And so a lot of times people let their differences get involved. And I don't think they're comfortable with people like us that are willing to step out of our comfort zone and talk to people that, you might get chastised for or whatever. I'm not into all that. I'm into, hey, what can we fix? Because we the people have been asleep at the wheel for far too long, and our culture is at stake, our country is at stake geopolitically, our world is at stake, and we cannot sit on the sidelines just because we don't like so and so, or no. Keep the focus. Right now, this focus on election integrity, I mean, it's a spearhead that's headed toward the Gold Dome, and we need to keep it that way, and we need all hands on deck, no matter who you are or where you're from.
That's right. So, Roy, you have your podcast. I know you do your shows on different days. So thank you for stopping by today. We're going to continue this conversation. Tell the people how they can follow you and get involved with your podcast. We always share it whenever we see it pop up. It's a really great show, guys. You should follow him and, follow his pages and keep up with everything and see how you can support what he's doing over there, too, as well.
Sure. On Facebook, it's Kingdom Lum Small Town. It's too hard to explain why, but I go by Small Town Underground. We're on YouTube, Rumble, X, Telegram, all over the place. We do a weekly show every Wednesday night at 9 p.m., and then I do special shows throughout the week as they come. I'm a fly by the seat of your pants type guy, so I'm just moving through this. And I appreciate it.
I made a couple of notes for today, but I didn't go off of them. So many great guests, including yourself on here, man. I was just like, let's just get on here and have a conversation, because this is what we do behind the scenes anyway.
That's right.
Of things. We just have a conversation. It's nothing formal about it. And I've started to try to make more notes to try to make sure we don't miss points.
That's right. We need to let everybody know, hey, we're having the big event on September 7th. You and me are going to be there. There's going to be a lot of people. We got Judge Joe Brown going to be there. I hope we can get some of these election integrity people there. I'd love to have Kim.
I'll be there. So
we
might have to pull Kim in the crowd. We need to have a big show of force.
We do.
And show some solidarity there. But thank you for stopping by, Roy.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, Kim. We appreciate all the hard work you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. So, Kim, quite impressive Roy's doing some great work with his podcast and everything. I had turned it on one night and just kind of set it on the counter, late one evening, and where my wife kind of, ties up her hair or whatever and stuff, and she started listening to it. She was like, "This is really good." I said, "I know, I know the guy. He does a great job." And we do need to continue to get voices out here, and we see we have an alliance of people that have kind of formed on their own, and these people are called to get involved, and that's what we see with the work that you're doing, that you've been doing for some time now. More people getting involved, and if you're watching this podcast, like I said, try to see how you can help support, because this is all about election integrity. This is not a political issue, even though it has been and can be politicized. This is about your First Amendment right, which is letting your voice be heard at the ballot box, and to make sure it's not stolen by illegitimate votes. That's what this is about. And right now, the elections in Georgia are not secure. We want everybody to encourage people to go out and vote. Still go out and vote, okay? We don't want people to stop voting and say, "Hey, this is useless." But let's keep applying pressure so that we can, have the right thing happen in this next election.
Can we talk about how to vote?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's tease them with that. When we come back, we'll talk about how to vote, and we also got our next and final guest coming up right after this.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to SafewayHost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to SafewayHost.store today. That's SafewayHost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.
Hey, thank you guys for hanging around. One of the most, I want to say, action-packed shows that I've ever been a part of. So many great people that are doing great work right here in Georgia. And just as a citizen, I'm so thankful and grateful at the things that they're doing, sacrificing a lot of time, putting a lot of hours in, all the driving and phone calls and archiving of information, reading, just all of the stuff that people are not there to see. I'm personally appreciative, and I'm pretty sure people that are watching this show and or sharing it appreciate all the great work that's being done. So, Kim, there's a Supreme Court case, right, that I believe that you're a part of. And can you just kind of give us a brief overview of what that is? And then we'll have your partner in crime, we mean that in a good way, come in and also join the conversation. Just set it up.
So Lori Toulis, and she had a co-plaintiff, and then there were a couple of people in another county, sued Morgan County and Brad Rathensperger, and she has all kind of evidence of how our machines are hacked and they're not certified, and how there's laptops from hell in Fulton County that were manipulating ballot batches. She has a trove of amazing data. And so she sued Brad Rathensperger, went all the way up to the Georgia Supreme Court, and they gave Brad Rathensperger sovereign immunity as the ruling, which was an improper ruling because an employee or an elected official of the state does not deserve, per the law, sovereign immunity. So she appealed via writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. Okay, so she's picking on Brad Rathensperger. Well, that's low-hanging fruit. So Bob has got his own evidence that he'll talk about, and he filed an amicus, potato brief. I don't know exactly who you're talking to, how you say that word, but the Georgia Nerds filed a brief as well, and so we filed our evidence in support of Lori's writ of certiorari. You can't get those 9 robes to take an election case. They denied it. They actually discussed it. It went further than anyone thought, but they denied it without any reason for denying it. But it was good for the Georgia nerds in that it made us organize our data, do peer review on our data, and we have credibility with that data, and we've expanded on it since then.
Yeah, incredible. So let's just go ahead and get Bob on in. So Bob, make sure you got yourself unmuted. You might want to angle your camera down just a little bit so the screen art is not blocking you. So can you angle it down just a little bit more for us? Okay, Bob, let me make sure I got it right. So, all right, so Bob, welcome to the War Room. So there was a Supreme Court case, and Kim set it up really good. So you want to talk through just a little bit of that for us and what happened with it, and just your thoughts?
Sure, I'll just expand a little bit on it. The court case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court was actually born out of 4 different Supreme Court cases that went to the Georgia Supreme Court. And there are 4 different counties, 4 different members that put those to the Georgia Supreme Court. And then the one of Lori Tullis, that's the one that made it to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, Kim mentioned a lot of good things about that case, but the other thing that's part of this is all of this evidence, and it's not just stuff that we've made up. This is hard evidence. All of that evidence is docketed with the U.S. Supreme Court. So anybody in Georgia, anybody in the United States can go to the U.S. Supreme Court, do a docket search on 23 TAC 1172, and they will have hundreds of pages of evidence that Kim has been talking to you about, my evidence, and then that of Lori's.
So Bob, has the Georgia, when I say leadership, that could be any of the top brass. So we'll say that's Raffensperger, Carr, Kemp, his office, Sterling. Has anyone reached out to you after the fact? I mean, maybe that's a dumb question, but I just, the audience needs to hear this and know this officially. So that's why I asked the question.
If I can, Antonio, let me give you about a 3 or 4 minute history lesson and how I got to this point, and it should probably clear up some of the question you just asked. So, right after the election of 2020. A judge from the Georgia Senate, a judge, I'll call him Senator Ligon, but Senator Ligon was also a judge for 16 years in Brunswick, Georgia. So he led an investigation of the 2020 election. And on December 17th of 2020, he sent a letter to the Secretary of State, to Governor Kemp, to the AG, and to the Congress of Georgia, that there is too much, and you can still see that in there today. His recommendation number 9 is there was so much evidence of fraud in that election that the election cannot be certified. Now, that was a judge for 16 years.
So wait a minute, repeat that just so that we can burn that into the minds of people. So
sure.
Senator Ligon at the time, he had been a judge, I believe, for 16 years in Brunswick County. His statement was, again, about the 2020 election?
Recommendation number 9 is there is so much evidence of fraud in this election, the election should not be certified. I mean, wow. Basically, he was told, and it was all ignored. So here, let me follow up what happened next. So that was on December 17th. So just 5 days after that, on December 22nd, Raffensperger puts out a press release, and it's still out in the cyberspace, puts out a press release that says that he has drawn together all of Georgia government to go after all the fraud that's been identified in this last election. He said, as of December 22nd, 2020, he has over 250 credible cases of fraud in Georgia. So you're sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, the Secretary of State is going to do the right thing. He's going to go after all this fraud that Senator Ligon brought up. So then just 2 weeks after that, on the January 6th, actually 2.5 weeks, on the January 6th, 2021, Secretary Raffensperger sent a letter to the United States Congress. This letter did not go to Georgia or Georgia citizens. It went to the United States Congress, and it went to Vice President Pence. Now, this 10-page letter had 42 false statements in it. Basically, the letter that went to Pence and Congress was in case anybody in Congress from Georgia said, we're not going to certify the election. Pence could reach in his back pocket and say, I just got a letter today from your Secretary of State saying there was no fraud at all in Georgia. Everything's perfect. So he's telling us, on the 22nd of December, he's got 250 credible cases of fraud. On January 6th, he told the United States Congress there was nothing, no fraud in Georgia. And then he told Channel 11 News about a month after that, that he can't wait to get some of the 2016 cases cleared so he can start on the 2020 investigations. So this guy is just deception after deception after deception.
So the same one that he sent the letter to Pence to say it wasn't no election fraud. And after Ligon pretty much said, hey, you can't certify this.
Exactly.
The story gets a lot better.
Come on, Kim.
Come on, Bob.
Well, come
I know
on.
this story. The next chapter, turn the page.
Yeah.
It's so good.
See, he breaking news to me right now in the audience. The audience of kooks.
Hang on.
That believe that the election was not legitimate. So yeah, pour it on us.
Okay, so if you look inside that letter to Congress, the 10-page letter to Congress, there's 42 false statements, and one of the biggest false statements in there is Secretary Raffensperger tells the United States Congress that he did a machine audit across Georgia. And he says, and these are the 6 counties that we did the machine audit in: Morgan, Spalding, and so on. There are 6 counties. And so I started digging into it. And there's a colleague of Kim's and mine, Kevin Moncla. He and I had shared some information back and forth, and the audit had not taken place. So he told U.S. Congress, citizens of Georgia, the United States, that we audited these machines in Georgia and everything was fine. So I started talking to different people to see if they could help me. I spoke to Ligon. I spoke to Burt Jones. I spoke to a lot of politicians. And then one day I sat down. This was July 15th, 2021. I sat down with Speaker Ralston. He has since passed. But I sat down with Speaker Ralston and I shared all my evidence with him, because that 10-page letter really revealed about 28 allegations of crimes that the Secretary of State has committed against the citizens of Georgia. So I sat down with Speaker Ralston on July 15th, 2021, and he wrote a letter to the GBI to investigate the Secretary of State and the election. Number 2 man in Georgia, nothing happened. So then I'm still trying to get this in front of people, and I sat down, it would have been the end of November, with Senator Gooch. And Senator Gooch is also from North Georgia. And I shared all this with him, and he said, Mr. Coovert, your problem's not with me, it's with the governor. And I said, well, I understand that, but the governor isn't taking any of my calls. And the next thing I know, I've got the governor's phone number. So I went home. The next day I called the governor. It was his voicemail. And he texted me, what can I do for you? Because I left him a pretty graphic message. about 28 allegations against Secretary of State. And so he and I texted back and forth, and then he asked me to sit down or to cover this with his deputy executive counsel, Evan Myers. I'm thinking, hallelujah. The governor's listening. I get to speak to one of his chief attorneys. So I went through all of my evidence, 28 allegations of crimes against the citizens of Georgia. And Evan Myers and I went over this stuff for 2 months, Antonio. 2 months, back and forth. And not one time did the executive council try to say, oh, well, we don't. We think your facts are incorrect. We think your evidence is incorrect. They never once said that. So at the end of 2 months of a collegial investigation, if you want to call it that, Evan Myers said, Mr. Coovert, we can't prosecute from the governor's office. He said, we want to refer your case to the inspector general. I said, great. That's what the inspector general's there for, to go after corruption in the executive branch, corruption, fraud, and waste. And this is all of those things. So he refers it to an inspector general, and you might know this name, Antonio. His name is Scott McAfee.
Chapter 3.
Well, you know what? I had this wrote it. I did make some notes. And then
Wait till you get to chapter 3.
So I got two. This is my two tentacles because I'm trying to make it, do a thing to show a couple of tentacles. So the SEB chair is tied to a certain individual. Yes. And the Fulton County judge prosecuting and Fannie Willis is tied to a certain individual. All right, go ahead. Continue your.
You're right on target,
Scott McAfee.
Antonio. Scott McAfee. So anyway, I now go through all my materials.
This is getting good, Kim. I gotta give it to you.
I'm telling you.
We don't have to start maybe we need to stop doing War Room, do like a soap opera. A Georgia.
It is a soap opera. It's just ugly.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully it'll never be like Sheriff Labatt's soap opera. But that's off track for now.
Okay.
So anyway.
For those that know.
So now I sit down with the inspector general I worked through all of these materials with him for about 2 months. And then one day, and the reason it's so clear to me is I was walking down the produce aisle of a little tiny grocery store in Blue Ridge, and my phone rings, and I look down, and it's Inspector General Scott McAfee. And I take the call, and Scott says, because we spoke quite often, we emailed back and forth quite often. And he said, well, Mr. Coovert, I've got to boil these 28 allegations down to just the one that's in my lane. He said, I'm going to boil it down to the Pro V&V audit, which was the audit of the machines, which I spoke earlier about. And I said, Scott, I don't think that's appropriate. I said, this is all corruption. This is all fraud. He says, well, I've narrowed it down. I'm going to go after this one item. So he goes after this one item, Antonio, and I don't know, about 3 weeks after that, I get a closure letter that went to the governor. Well, there's another common name, and went to me. And the closure letter said that the Pro V&V, that there was no fraud in the Pro V&V audit. And so I immediately called Scott back, and I said, Scott, how was there no fraud in that audit? He said, well, I talked to the Secretary of State, and I talked to the owner of Pro V&V, and they convinced me that took place. And I said, well, Scott, how many counties do you talk to? Because right in that letter to Congress, Secretary of State said, I did an audit in these 6 counties. The audit report didn't have those 6 counties listed. The phony audit report didn't have any machine serial numbers or any security seals that the county official had to break. It was just a fraudulent audit. And so
they just told you they did an audit and just threw something together, no serial numbers, and just said, hey, let me just throw something together and throw it at them. We know that this is not legitimate. It's not even real, but we'll at least look like we did something. So Bob's pronouncing, this is Scott McAfee. He's pronouncing his last name a little different. The same judge down in the Willis case.
That's correct.
Same guy, but go ahead.
Well, you should wait because Bob's going to get a button. I'm going to make it for him. You want to be a judge? Call Bob. Just wait.
So I send this stuff to
Judges by Bob. Go
I
ahead.
send this stuff to McAfee. Oh, and so I told him, I said, Scott, I said it didn't happen. And I had talked to all of the counties, these 6 counties. So then I'd open records requests, so I'd have a paper trail that I could give McAfee. So I give it to Scott, and I was waiting on one last one to come in, and Scott says, I've got them. So I know he saw them and read them. My last email from him said, I've got them. So then McAfee radio is silent on me. I don't hear anything for a couple months. And I've got other people trying to contact him. He's not getting back to me. And so finally, one day we get this email, a cryptic email from the Inspector General's office. And it just said, Scott McAfee no longer works in this office. Signed, G. And so I'm a little searching, only to find out that Kemp appointed him a Superior Court judge, which we now know is the one who worked for Fannie Willis years ago, by the way. So then, just to continue that vein of my story, Antonio.
So wait, I want you to cover that up. So
Yeah.
Scott McAfee, because we got to make this front and center. So Scott McAfee was assigned to do an investigation as the Inspector General, and he ended up leaving the office. Well, they put together just anything. They knew it was not legitimate and said they did a legitimate audit, I guess, across the states, and just threw it back at Bob or whatever. Then after that, he was appointed, it sounds like, by Governor Kemp. And guess who gets the Fannie Willis case? Scott McAfee. And I know that's where we're getting to, but I want to make sure we get that front and center. So this is old business, old tentacle type situation.
Well, not only that, so he's an appointed Superior Court judge. So how many incumbent Superior Court judges get voted out? It's got bigger implications than just an elected position. But if you want to be a judge, call Bob. Okay, Bob.
Bob the Judge Maker.
So
That's your new name.
Let me give you the second piece of that. So Kim and I we have spoken with so many individuals about our work. And one of the individuals I also spoke with was the district attorney for the Appalachian Circuit. And she came, there's a group that I'm part of, and they've always helped me with all of my work, and it's called the Mountain Patriots out of Blue Ridge. And so she came to one of our meetings, and as part of that meeting, I gave her my briefing book, which is a couple hundred pages of the evidence against Secretary Raffensperger. And so I gave her a quick download of what that was, and said, I'm going to follow up with you, give you the rest of the material to see if you have any questions. And she was always, very open to me. And then all of a sudden she goes radio silent on me as well. And
guess what happens?
I dropped more evidence off in her office. She never called me back. And then all of a sudden I hear, she's been appointed as
Let me guess. Let me guess. She received an appointment from the governor's office.
Call Bob.
So listen, we talked about pattern recognition before. Shout out to Jack Posobiec and what he does. Free Steve Bannon. But this is pattern recognition right now, and that's why we have to become better at laying the points out. I know that Kim gets it, Bob gets it. I'm still learning, but it seems like when a public official is faced to do the right thing, they become a part of the beast. They get a tap on the shoulder or whatever to become one of the snakes in the head of Medusa. Is that what sound like is happening? What that's actually what's happening, Bob? Because that's what I see right now.
Absolutely, Antonio. And the other place you see this is not just in making these people part of the machine, not a good machine, by the way, but also the investigative side of Georgia. So Kim and I can't go to the GBI. A lot of people have already been to the GBI with this, but guess what? The GBI reports to Kim. State police report to Kim. All of the investigative law enforcement agencies in Georgia report to Kim. So then when we stand back and we want to understand why hasn't anything been done in 3.5 years, when on day one almost a judge told us there's evidence, to me it's pretty clear.
So this kind of explains the club.
Yeah.
You're watching via Bob the club being expanded.
Yeah. So this explains why the club behaves the way that it does, because you've got all of the arms, many of the arms of prosecution and court system, all reporting back in some kind of capacity to the same guy. And this is why it's not good to have dictatorships. Okay? I've been saying on this show for, I don't know, maybe over a year now, that the state of Georgia is a small version of what's going on the federal level. That's your Green New Deal, backroom deals, and all this other kind of stuff. The way they move and operate is the same thing. They couldn't get the Green New Deal passed, but it was a template for everybody else to follow. Yeah. So a lot of these bills, they just sit up, they don't get passed, but they're somewhere where they can be read. So you have the copycat states of people that were, maybe part of, I don't know, maybe they've been to a couple of backroom meetings in Davos, and maybe they walked out of a couple of them and people were asking them questions and they ignored them. They didn't want to answer any questions. Anytime I see President Trump somewhere, he always answers. He never runs from a question. He invites the questions. It's not prescripted or anything like that. It's just like this meeting today. Nobody you see on War Room, we never give. This is all live. We never give any show preps or anything. Nobody. Hey, what you gonna ask me? What you gonna say? You come on here. You present your information, and then we can have some areas that we don't agree or whatever the case may be. That's how we get to a better outcome potentially. But this explains the club because they have something to fear. But here's the difference between the people who have not or will not choose the club. We fear God more than man. We fear God more than man. That is why we have a duty and an obligation to live and spread the truth. We don't care how many arms of government the governor controls. We don't care how many levers of power the president controls, because we don't answer to either one of them. What say you, Bob?
No, I think you are right on, Antonio. One thing that I'll just share real quick with yourself and some of your viewers is the amount of relationships that patriots have made throughout this state is due to the good Lord. We're all God-fearing people. And it's just like Kim Brooks and I. I mean, we have, we've just been supportive of each other through this entire thing. And as we're going down our paths, we meet other patriots who are just like us. And we just met with probably a couple hundred patriots in a church in central Georgia. And Kim and I and Lori and Joe Rossi gave a similar presentation to what we talked about today. And people are really beginning to understand that, we have the Almighty on our side. And I think that that's going to give us a winning hand.
Absolutely. So you have anything else you want to share or tell the people how to follow you, because we got to get into some of the data that Kim brought for Gwinnett County specifically, and we can have you back on anytime that you want to come on War Room, and we can just do a whole hour or whatever you want to do, because it's all about getting the information out for the work that you guys that you've been involved with.
Absolutely. There's a website. It's Write the Vote, and that's WRITE, Write the Vote, all one word, .net. So just go to writethevote.net. You'll see a lot of the work there. One thing that I would just share as a last moment would be the amount of evidence that Kim has and Lori has and I have. One, it's irrefutable. And two, it is somewhat overwhelming. But people, if they take the time to understand what it is and how it fits together, to your earlier point, we've got a lot to do to fix the state, but a lot's got to happen in a hurry. Yeah. So that's all I've got, Antonio. I certainly appreciate you having me on today.
All right, no problem. Thank you for the work you're doing, man. Absolutely incredible. And our thoughts and prayers are always with people who are fighting to do the right thing. I think I figured out what the P means now for Kim's middle name. Patriot.
That's it.
Why not ever think of that?
It might be for Pemberton, but I'll take Patriot every day.
All right, great. Thank you for hanging out with us, Bob.
Take care. Talk to you soon. See you, Brooksy.
All right. So, quite interesting. I mean, that was outstanding. I mean, how everything dovetailed together to put together to see how. Because I've been saying this too, and some people have good intentions when they get involved in probably be a legislator and all of that, and they get there and they lay their eyes on the beast and they become it.
Yeah.
And so the leadership, is like a hawk, and it's looking to swoop up all potential threats, and that's what it looks like to me. Hey, you know what? Come on over here. We like what you did with that last thing. Come on over here. Let us give you a job. You'll be fine. Pat you on the back. But what people don't realize, Kim, is Alex Jones. He says this. He says in this context, the United States is the best house in a bad neighborhood, but it's still the best place to be. Okay, what I would say to legislators is, you're poking holes on a sinking ship, and whatever they're doing, if they're going to pay you, not just legislators, judges, and all people in all different areas of government, you're going to take a payoff to have a good house or a couple of dollars in your pocket on a sinking ship. The level of insanity involved in that is just incredible.
Yeah, and like what we were talking about earlier of they never thought we would be here today still fighting. Coovert's one of the most humble men you'll meet. He actually has worked at the UN with multiple countries on nuclear reactors.
Wow.
He is an expert on nuclear reactors and has traveled the world, and he'll tell you he's been to countries that you don't want to go to because they had a nuclear reactor. So, but he's a pit bull. He's yet another pit bull.
Yeah.
He ain't letting it go.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing that we got people like yourself. I know I've said it 1,000 times during this show, but out here doing the work. This can be a tough thing. So without any further ado, I want to get into, let's take a break, and then we come back. Kim has some information about Gwinnett County as far as the elections is concerned that she wants to share with us that it's probably quite shocking. Back in a minute.
Accelerate your business goals and brand presence on the World Wide Web by logging on to safewayhost.store to purchase domain names, web hosting, email hosting, SSL, and more. We have 24/7 customer service and support available to our clients. Get started today so you can achieve your business goals by increasing your web presence. Log on to safewayhost.store today. That's safewayhost.store.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice. I'm telling you guys what, today has been really monumental show for us. I mean, just the sheer level of talent that has graced us today is just absolutely incredible, and a blessing that patriots across this state have put so much time into it, and and the level of sacrifice that we don't see, that involves their family, because every hour that they put into serving the people of the country and the state is an hour of sacrifice for their families. And we all should be grateful for the time that they put into everything, because this is not an easy thing to do, but we were made for this time. I really truly know and believe that in my heart, that we the people, we're going to come out victorious in this either way it go, because as believers, I say all the time, we know how this story ends. So Kim, let's talk about some of the data. You need us to get the screen up that you found for Gwinnett County and everything. So I'm gonna let you have the floor here and just kind of talk through what you have.
Okay, great. Thanks, Antonio. So I think today marks the 2nd year anniversary where the Gwinnett diners dropped 40.
So wait, but before you get into that, there was a meeting today, and something happened. So
I'm going to talk about it.
Okay, do you want to wait and talk about that?
I'm going to tell you about it in just a second.
Okay,
here.
all right, go ahead.
Because it is crazy. So I believe today is the 2nd anniversary of the Gwinnett team dropping roughly 40,000 affidavits challenging the 2020 election, as well as many malfeasance on the voter rolls. And this is when I thought cleaning voter rolls was a noble profession, and we've come a long way since then. So the picture on the bottom of the screen, if you can put it back, is a great team photo of us sorting our affidavits. Gwinnett County dismissed all those challenges without even reviewing them. And we had voters that had voted in 18 and 20 in another state, and they still didn't even look at it. And they dismissed them all.
So that was today?
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
I think
okay.
Today, yeah. So, and then Gwinnett. This is late breaking news. So Gwinnett County challenged 120 on the voter roll this morning, and I'll be dog. Gwinnett County dismissed those challenges without even hearing the evidence. Gwinnett County is criminal. There's no way. There's other way to say it. They do not follow election laws in Georgia. I'm a little fired up already.
Yeah, I see. So wait. So another case of people having evidence.
Yes.
Not wanting to look at the evidence right here in Gwinnett County. So this problem and this rot is not just sitting up on the top. And we want people to see this. This all goes back to the club talk. So how many individuals was on the election board in 20 that are still there now? And do you have any information on who's responsible for wanting to dismiss the claims of what the findings were right here in Gwinnett? We're not even talking about the whole, right here in Gwinnett County.
So the election board is comprised of 2 Republican nominees, 2 Democrat nominees, and someone that's supposedly to be an independent. That's very questionable in Gwinnett. And then you have the election supervisor and the county attorney at every board meeting. Okay. So at least 2 of them are still there today from 2020. The chair, Wandy Taylor, and Alice Olenek, who is the Republican nominee. She used to be the chair before Wandy took over maybe a year ago now. But back in 2022, when we dropped these 40,000 affidavits, I think it is today, Stephen O'Day, who's since passed away, was the Democrat nominee, and I think we got Washington DOJ down in Gwinnett County at a
wait,
meeting.
Hold a minute. Wait a minute. 40,000 affidavits with people who have signed their names willing to go to jail. This is the information that was dismissed by our own election board right here in Gwinnett County.
Yes, it was valid information too, and they lied in the press and they lied at the meeting where they dismissed the whole lot. The gentleman that read the written statement, we don't think he read it, and he sweat profusely. So I think when you lie, you just can't, no matter what your character is. But he's since passed away. But that's the anniversary. So on the other side of the picture, if you put that back up, so Gwinnett County may have dissed on us, but Trump, he really appreciated what we did. And that's Mary Bell and I on the world's smallest stage. Liz Harrington said, LOL, the world's smallest stage. I guess you got to start somewhere. But this was the Pennsylvania rally. He invited us to open and cheer up the crowd at a Pennsylvania rally. And we did. And then we went to the car and said, we just drove 800 miles to scream at a bunch of Pennsylvanians. Let's go do it again. So thank you, President Trump, for inviting us and saying thank you to us, basically. Okay, so we were going to talk about some things that we've been finding as the Georgia Nerds. The Georgia Nerds, as a reminder, is a group of data programmers and analysts across the state, men and women, and we've been working for free and finding some dandy things. So I was thinking about what we were going to cover, and then I thought about Gwinnett County because we're Gwinnett War Room, and I like nothing better than picking on Gwinnett County anyway. So, and oh, by the way, Antonio, they plotted to arrest me one time, the board. They were going to throw me in Kibo's jail. How about that?
So what was their reason behind that or excuse for
Well, you know, delivering truth at the podium with them videoing it, they got real uncomfortable.
So you mean we actually arrest people in this country for telling the truth?
Well, they were plotting to arrest me, but they never
that
did.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so I basically proved at that point in time when they were that evil that I could do much more damage on Gwinnett County without being behind their podium that I'm paying way too many taxes on anyway. So when we were talking about what are we going to cover today and the state findings that we found, I realized a lot of things have been found in Gwinnett that will explain it about as well as anyway. So let's do a beat down on Gwinnett County. Okay, so I have said behind the podium many times, Georgia commits identity theft on its own citizens. That is very hard to wrap your head around. They are committing identity theft on us via the Department of Driver Services. So we're going to see some real data today. And it's going to be hard to imagine, but it is factual. And we have a couple of different cases we're going to go over. Okay, so Help America Vote Act says that you need to delete duplicates on the voter roll. Now back to those 40,000 affidavits, we had like 3,600 duplicates that they should have taken care of, but they dismissed everything. All right, so duplicates is when you, Antonio, have 2 reg IDs out there. You should only have one, right? Your voter registration ID. Well, not only are we not doing a good job as a state of cleaning up those duplicates, they're purposely reissuing the duplicates. And we're going to find out why. All right, so this case originated in Gwinnett County because we found a duplicate ID that was reissued. Once it's canceled, it should never show back up in the system. It became a number at that point. Well, this gal down in Bullitt County, her real ID was still down there. She was still an active voter, but her duplicate got reissued on the voter roll in Gwinnett, and it got ugly fast. So what you're looking at on the screen here is a DDS motor voter application that comes to the election official, a government document for the election official to enter someone on the voter roll. 90% of the ads on the voter roll come through the DDS feed through Jarvis, which is the software tool that the election official uses. This happens to be a false government document. The election official cannot tell the difference between a real DDS motor voter application and a false one. I have heavily redacted this because it's against the law to share people's personal information. But what you need to wrap your head around is our own government is stealing our personal information and creating false government documents and sending them to another government employee to enter a phantom voter on our voter roll to steal elections. So let's look at this document. In the top right-hand corner, the registration number is the reissued ID. They stole this gal's driver's license number. They stole her social security number, her full birth date. You can see her, it's a female, she's a black female. And a lot of times with these these duplicates, they'll slightly misspell the name to throw programmers off. This lady spells her name with one L in her last name, but the duplicate has two L's in the last name. I have redacted the signature at the bottom, but see those two perfect L's in that signature? She doesn't have two L's in her name. All right, and normally I would redact the address because I don't want anyone to know where someone lives. However, I knocked on this door at this apartment in Peachtree Corners. She doesn't live there. She lives in Statesboro. And we talked to her in Statesboro. And she said, I have never been to the Gwinnett DMV, and I have not lived in Gwinnett. So this is irrefutable proof that our government, via the Department of Driver Services, is stealing the identity of Georgians and perpetrating fraud on our voter rolls.
So I watched the state election board, and I think we shared this on the last one, and there was a gentleman there whose lawyer was there from Gwinnett that was saying that he was in Nevada.
Mr. Mason.
Yeah, Mr. I gotta get all this information because I gotta have them on here.
Yes.
And the attorney was saying, hey, I need to know what you guys have so I can start subpoenaing people. But my prediction is they will just kind of let this quietly go away because once that subpoena starts flying, the Band-Aid's gonna come off this thing, and we're gonna find out. Here's the dots. Here's the pattern recognition again. We're going to find out that our state is doing the same thing that all of these swing states are doing to manipulate the vote. And the fish rots from the head all the way down, okay? And I know you're going to hear leadership from now on because that's where the focus and the attention needs to go. And this is how you end up with a club because the beast has absorbed every threat or most of the threats to itself, and the beast has became them. This how you get McAfee. This how you get who was the other person? This how you get an appointed guy to the state election board who the three members had to override. Do you guys noticing a pattern now? So when President Trump came down here a week and a half ago, I'm gonna keep going back to this because you guys got to make a decision. He forced everybody in the room to see what they saw that's going on in this state, and you got to make a decision. I love this right here because guess what? You have the power right now, and that power right now rests in your choice. You're either going to pick the future for your children, the Constitution of the United States, and what's best for this great nation, or you're going to side with the club. You got a choice to make, and we're going to keep seeing this stuff pop up. I'll let you go on. Kim, want to take over your
So I've spoken with Mr. Mason, and I'm not ready to drop it on your show yet, but we have an exact case like he talked about with a Georgian, and it involves Georgia and Florida. And they stole the man's driver's license in Georgia, And when he talked to me, he found out he had been registered to vote in Florida for 4 years and had moved to 3 different addresses, yet he's never registered to vote in Florida. But worse, he had a Florida driver's license and they canceled his Georgia driver's license. More to come.
So what you're saying right now is, let me go back over this again, because this is a lot to chew on. Like, this is a lot to chew on, because the claims here are ginormous. But this is not hard for me to believe because of what I saw from that attorney who represents a gentleman right here from Gwinnett County, who they claim that he's been voting in Nevada for like maybe 15 plus years. And the guy's like, I've not lived in Nevada for a long time. And his attorney is standing up there at the state election board about a week or so ago saying, hey, my client has not lived there. I need to find out what you have, Georgia, so I can start subpoenaing people. I'm waiting on that moment right there, because he's going to peel off a Band-Aid of something that they don't want the public to know. What do you say?
I say so. And when I've only spoken with him once, and we really do have to connect. And he couldn't believe I had another case. And so I'm glad I've got his number. He was a very well-spoken man, and I look forward to sharing data because I can help him from a voting standpoint of what to ask for, at least in Georgia. But this Florida case is almost identical, and it's frightening because the guy has an unexpired driver's license, and he goes to vote, and they say your driver's license has been abandoned. And then he calls a cop friend, and he goes, yeah, I'm looking at your Florida driver's license right now. What do you mean? I've never had a driver's license in Florida.
So wait, they stole his, did it have a picture on it?
Well, I don't know yet. I got to talk to him again.
This right here is, listen, this is like a thriller. What a time to be alive.
I know.
And for the guy, you know, I'm a big time sports guy. I played football through college, but this is far more exciting to me. And I'm not delighting in all this corruption at all. Not whatsoever. I can't stand it, matter of fact. But this is an exciting time, you know, when you're able to sit here with people like Kim, have people come in like Bob, Jason, Roy earlier, and Kandiss, people that have been a part of the show today to try to help to get the word out. You know, we're in a good versus evil moment. And, you know, and I can't help but let the sports guy in me come out right now. And I want to, we win anyway. I just want to get a couple of licks in on these guys.
So let's take it back to my presentation, Antonio.
All right, let's do that.
So, okay, so it gets worse with this gal. So she admitted to registering to vote but had never voted. Well, they like to steal the identity of someone that doesn't vote very often because they're not paying attention to see if anybody's voting on their behalf. She registered, she's not that old, and she registered to vote, I think, in 2019. Now, if you look at these 3 screenshots here on the screen, these are from Jarvis. These are part of her voter record. All right, so remember, she only has 1 L in her last name. At the top of the screen is one signature. I've sat on this for a year because I knew I couldn't share someone's signature. Then I got crafty and said, oh, wow, I can redact 2/3 of it and you get it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then in the middle of the screen is her quote-unquote signature from 2020. They started creating all those duplicates right around an election. Whatever you're thinking right now is probably correct. And then at the bottom of the screen, that's 2023 when they had the fraudulent DDS motor voter application. I don't think I know what this lady's signature is.
So for clarity, just for people that's not that smart like me. So this signature is three different times has supposed to have been signed by the same person, right?
Correct.
And this is supposed to be the same person with 3. The name don't even look the same. Let's pull that back up.
I'm not a signature verification expert, but do you need to be?
No, you don't have to have no kind of expertise in signatures to see that has been fraudulently signed 3 different times by 3 different people.
Yeah, so she's had identity theft committed on her by Georgia for at least 4 years. It got really crazy in Hall County recently. We uncovered someone that's had identity theft on them for 10 years.
Okay, wait, hold on, because I don't want to forget this. So let's go back. So the case in Fulton County had to do with, did they have one to do with signatures? Is this what SB... Because I know there was a bill that was...
Nope.
Okay.
No, so they talk... Well, that's interesting. They want to talk about signature verification when you vote, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this gal's had so many signatures on her voter record. These are her voter records. This is in Jarvis, what you're looking at. How the heck do they know what her real signature is? How do they know?
Wow.
Okay.
So the Fulton County... Okay, I get it now. So there was a lot of pressure. I guess Kemp was supposed to be going to a Trump rally, and there was pressure on him to investigate. Was that the signatures?
Well, in 2020, they didn't do signature verification almost the entire election, and some counties, they were actually called and said, do not do signature verification. Well, that right there, I like this word. That's hinky. Okay, so, but they did it anyway because they run a tight ship up there, and they have their cards in their file cabinet with your signature on it, and they do signature verification. But they've relaxed signature verification, but it's even worse. Have you checked into those poll pads and you do that little pin thing? Like, oh, sure, that's your signature. No. So that's all been neutered. That's the best way to say it. Okay, so let's talk about some current malfeasance of Gwinnett County. They're so crooked, I swear. So we have all these, in your voter record, it has your registration address. That's where you lay your head at night, okay? And so they got all these with missing address. Literally, the street name on the record is missing address. Okay, that's pretty easy to understand. They don't have a clue where you live. And then they have an undefined precinct of 999999. Now, there's don't hold me to it, but I think there's 136 different precincts in Gwinnett County. It's the second largest county in the state. And so it'll have like Pinckneyville this or this, but it's a unique alphanumeric character. 9999 is a placeholder. So, okay, so they don't know where you live, so they don't know where to put you on a precinct. However, the mailing address of this particular one is a local gym. We have them at P.O. boxes. We have them at other addresses. Our no-excuse absentee ballots, this Reg ID could ask for an absentee ballot and they mail it to the gym. Yet, Gwinnett County doesn't have a clue who this person is or where they live. It violates 21-2-216, I believe, which are minimum requirements to register to vote. One of the minimum requirements is you have to prove where you live. So Gwinnett County is putting registrants in ready for 2024 to where they don't even have a registration address, but they got a valid mailing address. And obviously you can't register to vote at a gym. You can't register to vote at a P.O. box. And so this is all... Oh, and then also, I remember this video. You got to go to see our Rumble channel.
So maybe they voting for less workouts at the gym.
Well, we also have packed pool houses where we have registered voters at the pool house leasing offices in Gwinnett. And I used to joke, what a great deal. So the rent is free. Mm-hmm. You have a bathroom and a shower in the pool, and they have a barbecue there. It's a pretty good deal. Okay, so anyway, I'll move on this. There's more to that one.
So who's responsible for, is this a state issue, or is this something election board should be looking into? It's the county, because I know we're talking about county.
So first off, the county, just out of the gate, should never put anybody on the voter roll with missing address. Enough said. Okay, so that's county. But who's doing this crap? Can I say crap on your show? So it can be the DMV.
That's PG-13, so it should be fine.
So the DMV, I just talked about the DMV and showed you the evidence. So in that instance, the county official can't discern a real versus a fake DMV thing that comes to their desk. So the county's innocent in that one, but that's at the DDS in Georgia or even higher that we're kind of learning. And then you have NGOs that have access to our voter rolls, and sometimes it's really obvious how they're packing fake voters on our voter rolls. So it's multiple places where the fraud's coming in.
So why would, maybe you can answer this question, why would an NGO need to have access to our, is NGOs just kind of considered any kind of get out the vote organization?
Non-governmental organization. A lot of them have a lot of words that sound really good, but they're mostly all bad. Yeah. And so basically with no excuse absentee voting, and we're going to get some other proof too that's disturbing, but no excuse absentee voting, if you say I live at the North Pole and you have a registration address in Gwinnett and you want your absentee ballot mailed to the North Pole, they say, okay. And so it is a gaping hole in our election system, our no excuse absentee voting. So when you see hinky registrations show up and it's not even a valid address, but it has a valid mailing address, you know, that kind of gives you a clue that things are ramping up.
Okay. So we have a great idea now of just how bad things are. So what are some of the solutions that will help to, I know we have to deal with corrupt individuals. There has to be a mind to do the right thing, and we get that. And that's where I guess we the people should be holding representatives accountable. And when somebody like Sam Carline tried to do that, there's some guy walks up to him and gets into an altercation with him because he's questioning his legislator. Sam Carline's trying to get, or there's a consensus around in his county that they wanted to have the governor censured for some of the things maybe he said or to undermine the efforts of the nominee, which is Trump, the Republican nominee. So some guy comes up out of the distance, start something with him and says, leave the legislator alone, from what we gathered, and spits in his face. So is that a encapsulation, in your view, of how the establishment feels about us for questioning them?
Well, the Gwinnett GOP has attacked me before. About a year ago, I was invited to a GRA meeting to stand up for someone because the Gwinnett Election Board had stomped all over our constitutional First Amendment rights and wouldn't let us speak at an election board meeting. And that was ugly. And I thought I was just going to stand up for the patriot that called out the two board members that they should have spoke up on our behalf. Now, I will say right now, David Hancock is a patriot, and he is on the board, and he is good. But that meeting got ugly. And the thing that we didn't expect is the Gwinnett GOP and a lot of Gwinnetians were meaner to me than they were to the person that I was going to defend. So that was also when I found out that the Gwinnett Election Board was plotting to arrest me. So it's like, okay, fine. I won't go back to your meeting, but I will grill you from afar.
So what was their reason for trying to arrest you? I mean, why do you think that they would go to that point?
Well, I can give you a really good example. So they dismissed those those affidavits, right? Mm-hmm. So we knew people that had moved out of state and were voting in our state unlawfully. And so then they asked for their absentee ballot to be mailed to them at their out-of-state address. So we go to the board meeting and we go, you've mailed an absentee ballot to someone we've already challenged. Now you're mailing it to their address that we told you they lived at. You still have a chance to cancel the ballot. Well, Gwinnett County didn't cancel the ballot. So what do? We get behind the podium then and go, okay, you're responsible. You had an opportunity to do the right thing. You had all the evidence and you chose not to do it. Now you are complicit in these election crimes. So they really don't like me explaining to them that they aren't doing their job.
So they come after you for holding them accountable. That's kind of what happens. That's how Jeff Clark got rolled up in his situation. And everybody that saw 2020 know that election high potential for fraud occurred in that election. Everybody in the world knows that. So when you stand up to the power structure, like Jeff Clark and many others within their rights, to express a concern, then they come after you, So it's like those that have been absorbed by the beast, you can tell if they have or not by what they say, what they don't say, what they do, and what they don't do. And many of them have already made their choice. But you that's watching this show, you have an opportunity to make the right choice, to do the right thing. And it's your responsibility, for the sake of your kids, your grandkids, and the future of this nation, to make the right decision and choose to do the right thing and support truth, to spread the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because that's just where we are right now. And I'm fine with it. I got people that I know close that, they hang out with the governor, and hey, that's your business. If you want to do that and all of that, whatever. You're grown and all of that. There's nothing personal about this conversation. This has to do with, has he and the rest of them done the best thing that they can do, that's right, that abides by the Constitution, to have free and fair elections? You just told me when you came in that your Twitter followers went from a few hundred to like maybe 30 or 40,000. Why is that? Because people are looking for the truth, and people that's going to hold people accountable that are in positions of leadership to secure our elections so that we have a fair vote.
So let's beat down on Gwinnett some more. So some counties have election officials that have no idea that fraud is being dropped on their head, and they're doing the best they can, but fraud's still in all those small counties. We've proven it. But there's some naughty list, and Zach Manifold is one of the top in the naughty list in Gwinnett County. Have you ever heard, he's the election supervisor, have you ever heard criminals are not that smart? Have you ever heard that phrase? Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about Zach. So I wanted to talk about stealing the identity of our felons. It is a whole scheme and a pattern. So they're stealing the identity of felons that are still sitting in jail. And they're stealing their vote. We've found a whole computer pattern on address manipulation. Then they have them vote, and then they cancel them right after the election, and the felon has no idea it's going on, and we must fight for those felons. He may have done something really bad, but he's innocent in this voting. So let's go over Mr. Hickman out of Gwinnett County. So he lived at 4155 Satellite Boulevard, an apartment on Satellite Boulevard in Duluth in 2015. And he was arrested for armed robbery and got 20 years, so it must have been bad. He must have done something pretty bad. Well, Gwinnett County eventually canceled him, and the reason was felon. And they canceled him in 2017. It took them a while, but they did the right thing. Then in April of 2023, Mr. Hickman shows up on the voter roll at 3900 Chattooga Road, Columbus. That's the jail. He's registered to vote at the jail. But now you got to pay attention. The very next month, May of 2023, they move him to Gwinnett County at 3900 Satellite Boulevard. This is the pattern we uncovered. They take the street number of the jail and attach it to the street name of where he used to live. We have a 100 Jim Hester Road in Macon, and all those dudes got moved to 100 Hembrick, 100 Newberry. It's a computer pattern. At first, I thought it was a bad felon. Nope. Then I thought, oh my gosh, it's Shawshank Redemption. It's a bad warden. No, we've proven it across multiple jails. But look at here.
So if they live at 100 East Brook Drive, when they get to the street of the jail, it'll say 100, whatever the name of the jail.
And then they move them. No, so the one at 100 Jim Hester, the guy lived at 226 Newberry Road, can't remember the city. Okay, he gets arrested for whatever. And they put him in 100 Jim Hester Drive in Macon. That's the jail. Okay. Then they move him to 100 Newberry. So it's just like Mr. Hickman. They take the street name of where he used to live and attach the street number of the jail. And because we have multiple jails in the same pattern, and many of them are still sitting in jail, we have a pattern. Okay. And then there's the pattern of how many felons are canceled right after an election. We have one felon that voted on November 3rd, 2020, and he was canceled as a felon on November 3rd, 2020. They don't waste any time getting rid of these felons because they're covering up their crimes. But it gets better. It's saucy in Gwinnett.
All right, come
okay.
on with it. Bring it. Let's
So
see
we
what you got.
had 2 felons like this that were still sitting in jail, and we thought it'd be comical because Gwinnett County proof is today. They don't even look at the evidence. We said we're going to bring this fraud and drop it in their lap without them even knowing it's coming. Well, the last scenario, they didn't know it was coming, and they were a little stunned on what to say because we dropped that fraud right in front of them. I didn't. A patriot in Gwinnett did. But back to these 2 felons, Marybelle Hodges, who runs the diners in Gwinnett, she challenged these 2 felons, and all she said was, they don't live at this address, okay? The other one was a gentleman that was in a jail in northwest Georgia, but they had him moving back and forth between Gwinnett and Fulton County 3 times, 3 visits to the DMV in 2 months. Well, the guy's sitting in jail. So we thought, okay, we're going to have fun with this one. So she drops those 2 challenges, and she does it on August 6th. In the Jarvis audit history log, Jarvis being the election system soup thing, we ORR'd these 2 IDs via another county because Zach wouldn't give it to you. And they both had DMV administrative updates on August 14th. So, what happened to my screen? Anyway, what happened to my screen? That must be some kind of
Let me see if
sign. Anyway, I was going to show, it's not on there. I was going to show you the letter from Zach Manifold on August 16th. He's got a little karma going for him today because I can't show his signature. But he sends a letter to the elector, Marybelle Hodges, and says, well, Mr. Hickman is in Muskogee County and the other gentleman's in Fulton County. And then we got the records from Jarvis, and he had someone alter public records. There is no evidence of Mr. Hickman going from the jail to Gwinnett County back to the jail. So they covered up their evidence, but they're not smart because we've got the receipts. We have the voter rolls of Mr. Hickman sitting on the voter roll for 2.5 months in Gwinnett. So the fact that Zach Manifold sends a letter and lies to a Gwinnett elector and obfuscates a 21-2-229 challenge, he's got some explaining to do. It's criminal behavior to alter public documents, especially as an election supervisor. But here's where it gets interesting. I do not believe Zach Manifold has access in Jarvis to actually edit the audit history log. So he had to have spoken with someone at the state level to do it.
The tentacle goes all the way back. And this is why the club is important, because my theory would be the people involved are afraid of what is going to come down from the top. It's like kind of like once you get involved, well, each individual has to make a choice of whether they're going to do the right thing or not. But once you get tied in and tell that first lie, you know, it might be with your actions. You got to tell 1,000 more after that. And that's why the criminal it starts to appear not to be smart, because he failed the first test, which was when you lie or you cheat or do something wrong, everything subsequent of that, everything is not going to lay out and make sense. So there's your tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so Zach was really kind of stupid because all he had to do was contact Marybelle Hodges and go, we noticed that these are 2 felons that need to be taken off the voter roll, and we're taking care of that. That's all he had to do. But instead, he altered public documents on both of them and lied to a Gwinnett elector, and he didn't tell the truth, and we have the receipts. So he has to deal with what he did. He could have been a little smarter and just said, we found out they're felons and we're going to take them off the voter roll.
So in your opinion, is this more of like incompetence or corruption?
Well, I don't know if I don't suspect Manifold had anything to do with the two felons being dropped into the voter roll. But he
So that was kind
much
of dropped in on him, but he just kind of.
But he did a
went
cover
along.
up
Yeah.
and committed crimes.
I understand.
So I
Understood.
call that crimes on top of crimes. So
Right.
he's trying to cover up for the fraud that's going on in the state because he realized that that guy's still sitting in jail, and here he is on his voter roll. And I don't know if he was smart enough to realize the address pattern matching, but it was that case that made us realize there's felons all over this state that are stealing their identity.
Yeah, but just think about all the subsequent decisions that are made that people are in positions like Zach that's getting dropped on them from what I believe is coming up from on high. You know, here's a couple of guys that are felons. We need to make sure that they vote that way. Then the election worker or whoever people maybe in Zach's position, it just kind of lands on them, and they end up becoming part of a manipulation scheme that they never set out to do, but they still have become an accessory to what could be a crime.
Well, there's certain election officials that are on the naughty list, and they help throw elections. And I like to deal in facts, but I've seen enough of Zach's cover-up in different ways. I do not believe he's an honest person trying to do the best he can for running elections. How's that for being politically correct?
Okay. Right.
And also, but Zach was not around for the 2020 election in Gwinnett. However, we have presented Zach a lot of evidence that shows that Gwinnett County cheated enough in 2020 to throw the presidential spread all along. Everybody's been focused on Fulton, their low-hanging fruit. Gwinnett did their share in a big way.
So what more receipts you got for Gwinnett? I know you brought the presentation stuff.
Well, that's all for my slides. I really wanted to beat up Gwinnett because I'm in the Gwinnett War Room, and they deserve everything they can get. We have a couple of other videos that we're going to post on our Twitter feed, the Georgia Nerds _real. And we're going to post this interview, and then we're going to post a couple videos we've already done on Gwinnett evidence. Okay. So we'll dig down a little more on that. But I also want to tell your viewers that it's so bad out there, and don't let me forget on how to vote, that we have deceased people that have been dead for 19 years that show up in the Secretary of State files as voting in person.
Wait, didn't the Secretary of State come out and say something to the effect that, oh, we cleaned the voter rolls up, or was it?
No, his favorite line, he's told a million times, is we have the cleanest voter rolls in America. Okay, so as I said in my press release last week, a lie told 1,000 times is still just a lie. And it's so bad in Georgia, you can clean voter rolls like that duplicate ID, and it shows back up. Well, you can clean dead people off, and they're reissuing dead people. But sometimes you don't even clean you clean the dead person off, so you think they're clean, meaning they're not on the voter roll. But in 2020, Mr. Moore voted. He's a World War II vet. How dare you pick on a World War II vet? But he died in 2003, and the Secretary of State files shows him voting in person on 10/26/2020. So what that means, it's hard to wrap your head around it, but you don't even have to be on the voter roll, and the machines will drop in a reg ID and then fraudulently put stuff on the absentee file to make it look real, but they're really just covering up their crimes. It's bad. So now I'm going to talk, I want everybody to get out there and vote, but we need to talk about how we need to vote. So we've gone over, they pick on dead people because they can't vote, felons because they're not allowed to vote, people that don't frequently vote. We talked about her. And then we have people that have moved out of state and they're voting them and they don't even know that we're voting them. Okay.
I wonder if I'm still voting in Alabama or not. You
well,
got
me
me
too.
to thinking.
I need to look at my maiden name. It's a valid question. So how to vote. I'm not an absentee voter. But what I saw in 2020 is lots of people. We don't have enough time today. But Brad Raffensperger stole over 300,000 votes, we believe, via a scheme he had going in 2019 and 2020 in preparation for the election. But people showed up in droves around Georgia, and they went to vote. And they said, you've already voted via absentee ballot. That happened a lot. So we're recommending the earliest date you can request an absentee ballot is August 19th. So that's right around the corner. You don't have to do it on that day. But we need to get on it and ask for our absentee ballot. I didn't say you need to vote via an absentee ballot, but you need to go ask for yours. You're less likely to have a nefarious party ask for the ballot on your behalf and then steal your vote. Now, you sit there with that ballot and you don't do anything with it until Election Day. Don't do early voting. That's when all the cheat occurs. You're giving everybody all the evidence of how much cheat they need to do. They say we're the gold standard, and they do it for convenience. Don't do it. Don't vote early. Now you have two choices as an American. You can vote via that absentee ballot, or you can show up on Election Day and vote via that machine. You need to vote because we've got to overrun the algorithms, but we can't give them any heads up. And if you're a frequent voter, they know you're going to vote. So they're not going to be surprised when you ask for an absentee, other than you may not have asked for one in the past. I've never asked for an absentee ballot, but I plan on doing that next week, just so I can sit on my own vote. I didn't say I was going to do anything with it, and I'm going to decide how I'm going to vote on Election Day.
All right, well, that sounds great. So, Kim, it's been pretty interesting day. This is I have to say this has been the most action-packed day that we've had, just like with, the level of guests that have come through and shared information, who are engaged, as dialed in, and I appreciate you coming by here and all the work that you're doing, and your husband, who came along too as well, and everything, and all the stuff that he does and shows up and whatever. You say you've been taking over some of your phone calls.
Yeah, this retirement.
So you got it on speakerphone, and all of a sudden you get asked a question, and then he answers it. That's funny. So Kim, let the audience know how to follow you and everything like that, and we're gonna put up your links and stuff to your pages, but now would be the time to let everybody know how to follow you.
Thank you again, Antonio, for having me on. So, the GA Nerds _real. We're on Twitter. We promised we would show you the fraud. We're not going to tell you stories. We said we were going to show you the fraud. You don't have to be a data analyst. We do screenshots right out of the Secretary of State's file. You got eyeballs. So we do 5-minute videos, and we show you the fraud, and you just got to wrap your head around it because it's real. We're not conspiracy theorists. We show you exactly what is in our files as Georgians, and it is bad. I have called for the resignation of Brad Raffensperger, and I've called on Governor Kemp to do his job.
All right, there it is. All right, so we're going to close the show out. That was Kim Brooks. Thank you to everybody that stopped by today to share the information that we're trying to get out, to keep pressure on. And we don't mind doing it. We'd much rather be sitting on the back porch drinking a lemonade, talking about the game and everything. It's just not where we're at right now in our country. And there are people out here on the front lines doing the hard work right now, and they need our support. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And do not forget, we got to all have a choice to make. We're either going to choose the club, the establishment here in Georgia, in the country, or we're going to choose what's best for our children and for this nation. And that's to hold people accountable. That's supposed to be our representatives right now. It's all of our responsibilities to do that, even when it's uncomfortable. We'll see you guys on the next one. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice. keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.